Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Environment YTC, and today we're going to be reviewing World War II. As some of you might know, I am a huge history nerd, and so this kind of stuff is fun for me. So I downloaded a map of Europe in the year 1939, which is when World War II starts. And we're going to change the colors and the dates as we go along. And until eventually we get to the end of World War II, note we will not be covering Finland in this. I can do that. I'll do that in another video because it didn't fit on this. Anyway, I'm going to be using MS Paint, and every time I do a new color, I'm just going to be doing something like that. But yeah, so we'll just explain the colors. Red is going to be the bad guys, blue is going to be the good guys, and yellow is going to be just all the neutral places. So we can start with the first event. Okay, the first event of the Second World War, even though it has technically not begun yet, is the alliance of Germany and Italy. And the first act Germany does is take control of Austria. And we'll move on to the second event. Okay, next thing that happens is Slovakia, basically there is this country called Czechoslovakia, which consisted of all of this territory here. It's now divided into three parts. We got technically four parts. We have, so the southern part went to Hungary. They're neutral still. Kind of the central part went to the new country of Slovakia. The rest of this was still Czechoslovakia, but there's this small area here, the pink, that's called the Sudetenland. And basically, it's got a bunch of Germans in it, and Germany wants to unite all the Germans. That's kind of their whole cause here. And so later on, they're going to annex this. Okay, what happens next is, see, the UK, France, and Poland, they're getting pretty worried about what Germany can do, because they've pretty much taken out two countries. Austria and Czechoslovakia, they're pretty much gone. So the USSR, or Russia, they like the cut of Germany's jib. So what they do is Germany and Russia draw up plans to invade Poland. And guess what happens next? This is what happens next. So the invasion goes ahead, and the UK and France were supposed to ensure that Poland would be protected, but guess what? Poland didn't get protected. So Germany and Russia take their shares. I know that this doesn't look very accurate to what it was, but I'm not that good at drawing on a computer, okay? This is basically what happened, though. So let's see what happens next. What happens next is that, oh, I just forgot. Okay, remembered. The year is now 1940. I'll change that in the next slide. But Russia, they invaded Poland, and so now they're kind of like, hey, we're on a roll here. So then they take out Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, and also Finland is now put into the story at this point. But again, we're not covering that in this video. Italy also wants control of the Adriatic Sea here, so they take the country of Albania. Pretty big thing, because now Yugoslavia here going to be a victim of them in the near future. They don't have any sea access routes anymore. They're basically stuck here unless Italy says, hey, you can pass through. And remember that team? Well, that again didn't go so well, but in the honor of Poland, the UK and France, they're gonna declare war on Germany here. So nothing really happens at this point. This is a little period in the war called the Phony War, where no one really does anything for like almost a year. But what does happen during this is that Germany takes all its forces and they go and invade Denmark and Norway so they can get a little thing called iron. Iron is a very precious material needed for building the German tanks and weapons. To take the French and the British forces. Foreshadowing. Now with the Eastern Front secure, Germany turns its attention towards France and the UK. And so France has this thing along the German border, the green line there. It's called the Maginot Line. And it's basically just a bunch of impenetrable defenses along the German border with France. And we'll see how that goes. Okay, well, what happens is Germany doesn't really like the fact that there's the line of impenetrable defenses. So they just like in the First World War, they're gonna go around this through Belgium and the Netherlands and Luxembourg this time. And now the French forces are kind of over here, the French and British forces, and also they're down here. And what happens next is honestly a stroke of genius, in my opinion. Also, do you like how I now have the little troop formations? So this stroke of genius is that the Germans realize that all the forces are there, so they go through this area 3 days, heavily forested, heavily defended, but there's no troops there, so they can just they're through. In 3 days, they've marched all through France from the German border to the strait, right? Channel, the English Channel. Gone all the way from the German border to the English Channel in 3 days. That's pretty impressive in border tactics. Okay, so now the troops have been forced to. The forces of France have been forced to go back to England if any of them survived. Pretty vicious. And the Germans did something that looked a little bit like this to France, since there are no more French troops in France. So they made this for strictly military purposes to defend against the UK. And then they made this spot here, which I'm probably not allowed to say on YouTube, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's called Vichy, France. Basically the capital city of Vichy. And they kind of were like a German puppet state, so they were technically France, but they weren't really. They were controlled by the Germans. So then it kind of made it look like the UK's old ally switched to the German side, which, I mean, that's pretty good tactics, Germany. Again, nothing really happens for a few months, but while this is happening, the Germans are gathering up their forces all along France. You can see that there's a ton of troops, and they're preparing for the invasion of Britain. But guess what? Britain has enough air force that they can just come over here and go boom, 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 boom. the German forces are all gone, mostly. And then what they do have isn't much, and so it ends in a British victory with the German forces being destroyed. So even with their forces completely diminished by the British, that's kind of a rhyme, diminished by the British, they're gonna have a bit of fun here. Italy through Albania invades Greece. Bulgaria, Hungary join Germany and their friends, and then they all go and invade Yugoslavia together. They're just having a grand old time. Hello, welcome to the Daily News. Our top stories for today: 1. Greece has fallen. 2. Yugoslavia has fallen. Also, out of Yugoslavia's ashes rose the new nation of Croatia, which has joined Germany. That's all you really need to know for now, so stay tuned. I don't know what that crazy news guy was on about. But yeah, Yugoslavia, Greece have fallen, and there's also Croatia now. But there's also Romania, which has now joined Germany. And you might be wondering why all these German troops are on the border. That's because Germany and their allies had a keen eye on Russia. Russia had been on that roll, but they'd been beaten by Finland, again, not mentioned in this video. They've been beaten by Finland, so they're thinking Russia's kind of weak right now. And so they want to invade Russia, take all their oil, because you know what? Iron goes with oil. They both need it for building weapons. You need to keep the weapons. So, yeah. Something like this ends up happening. Not good for Russia, good for Germany. But then there's also this little tiny thing that Germany didn't really account for. The Russian winter. This thing gets pretty cold, if you didn't know. And Germany didn't bother giving their troops any supplies to survive the winter, and so then with their summer outfits they get pushed back by Russia, back into Germany, and wherever else they started from. Welcome back to the Daily News. Today's top story is the US has joined the war in Britain's favor, but fear not, Germany. Russia has right. Okay, can we get? Is that correct? Oh, okay. Germany has invaded Russia again since the Russian winter is over. Was that correct? Okay, good to know. Why does that news guy keep showing? Wrong channel, dude. Go back to the news. You're not from here. Just saying. But anyway, he is right both times. The U.S. has joined Britain's side in the war. Not good for Germany, but good job, Germany. Russia's winter is now over. Yeah. You know, maybe we could get this guy back on. He seems to be covering everything pretty well. Dude, don't go yet. Come back. I'm sorry for telling you to leave. You're actually pretty good at this stuff. Come on, I'll give you a hug. Yeah. Okay, good. You can cover the news next time something big happens. Okay. So, things seem to be going. Things seem to be going great for the Germans. But guess what? It's not. You know why? Well, things aren't going too good for the Germans, if you can see here. First off, Russia has now joined everyone else. They've joined the UK. They pushed them all the way back again, but not just because of winter, it's just because Germany's pretty weak now. Also, we have this little thing in here called the Warsaw Uprising, which is basically all the Polish people. They come to Warsaw, and they're going to start a revolution, I mean, that doesn't really work that well if you just see, because this is kind of what the Germans do. It's just something like that. And then they're like, nothing ever happened. And also, the Allies, which is, Russia, the UK, America. Just gonna refer to them the Allies now. I don't really want to have to keep saying it. But they have now liberated northern Africa, and they are moving up the Italian peninsula, right to the homeland where it all started. The German, I mean, not German, the Italian leader abdicates and retreats into Germany, but then Germany says, no, go fight for your country. Because that's just what Germany does. And then, this ends up happening. Now there's no more bad guy Italy. Same there. And there, and there, and there. So, not going well. After all that, it doesn't really get much better for Germany because, Russia here, they kind of pushed through most of Romania and Bulgaria, so they're pretty much down. And they've started going into Hungary, former Czechoslovakian territory. Also, they've retaken Norway and Denmark. That's pretty big. So now Germany don't have any iron anymore. They also don't have any oil. They're pretty much just on their last reserves right now. Also in France, we got the Normandy invasion. You've probably heard of that, but what you don't know is about the invasion in the south by the British, and they're kind of just like, this is Germany here. And they're kind of just going like, like a trash compactor. Now, okay, Battle of the Bulge, pretty big battle, not much territorial nonsense. Basically, what happens, Germany takes all its troops, everything it has, literally. They're pushing through France like they did before. They're going to try and do it again. They're going to make like this epic anime comeback. So they're trying to push in. They're trying to push into France again. And yeah, they're just trying to push back into France. It doesn't really work because America's here, and now they're just going to kind of push them back even further. Well, every Germany is like depression. Everything's just crumbling around it. All of its allies have fallen. France has fallen. They don't got France anymore. France was pretty big. They don't got Italy anymore. They don't got Poland. They're pretty much back at square one. And so they do this thing, and it's called the Battle of the Bulge. And I'll show you right this. Well, they push them back like this. That's pretty far. They're already in the homeland. They pushed even further now. And, well, Germany has no choice but to surrender. Germany has fallen. Great thing for Europe, especially since Germany was doing pretty bad things that I wouldn't be able to mention here on YouTube because channel would probably get deleted. It's that bad. But they did some pretty bad things, and now it's great that all of it's now like that. Then we have this new world order and another war coming up. No violence. Great. But still pretty bad. Cold War coming up.